an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise. And suddenly, to my surprise,
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
He did the mash.
He did the monster mash.
Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Good. Everything hurts.
Hello. I'm Victor and this is the junkyard. So, I'm cold. My throat is dry. My joints are sore. My blood is coagulating in my legs. I've got an insatiable desire for human flesh. And since the bacteria that used to help me digest my food is now digesting me, I'm feeling a bit gassy. So overall, not in a good mood. So fortunately though, the vampire cure should work here. But lacking blood flow, it's gonna take a while. So in the meantime, I thought I would continue Monster Mash Month with the 1985 film, Transylvania 6-5000. Now if you'll excuse me, I gotta go gargle some canola oil. That's better. Well, the film starts with Jack and Gil, played by Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr., respectively, as tabloid reporters being told by their boss to cover a Frankenstein sighting in Transylvania. Jack, the closest thing to a real journalist in the office, is skeptical, while Gil, a half-wit suck-up, is ready to go. And if they don't come back with a story, they're not to come back. 4.5 minutes in, we got our premise, now let's move. I like this movie already. And now the movie gets its own song during the opening credits. Ah, the 80s. Why did we ever let you go?
Somebody calls my name, if you need to reach me, you can call me, this is where I'll be.
Okay, so I guess being a zombie doesn't make the thriller dance any easier. Good to know. Well, they arrive in Transylvania, which is overall a sunny, friendly bit of country. Squeaky-voiced 80s love interest and oily mayor are introduced, and when Gil tries to ask quietly about Frankenstein, he is greeted with laughter. They head over to the castle near the Frankie sighting and are greeted by something scarier than the likes of Bram Stoker or Mary Shelley could ever come up with. Michael Richards in full spazzy retard mode. It was kind of his shtick before toning it down for Seinfeld. Yeah, Cosmo Kramer represents his subtler work. Anyway, the mayor also owns a castle, which is basically a theme hotel. We get a lot of comedy through reacting to bad comedy, which I am currently trying to squeeze a laugh out of in this review, which will inevitably be subject to witty comments. The only way this could get any more meta is if Jack's Films uses one of those comments in his next installment of Your Grammar Sucks. After a fairly long comedy sequence with the hunchbacked, well, he's just bending over slightly, but go with it, butler and his wife, and some more meta comedy, our heroes decide to get on with the goddamn movie. Gil starts nosing around the scene of the Frankenstein sighting, where he encounters a dangerously haphazard chandelier and a suspicious police chief. Back at the hotel, Jack tries to convince Gil that there's no story, when they get an invite from a gypsy fortune-teller who claims to know the truth. She reveals to them that her son is a werewolf. Gil, and reluctantly Jack, go to follow the alleged werewolf, who is in fact just having a midnight rendezvous. Meanwhile, I have to make note of this. Jack and Gil are basically Abbott and Costello of the modern times, or, well, maybe Hope and Crosby. Or, I guess it could be a comedic Mulder and Scully. Or a, fictional Roger and Ebert. Or, and they could be a less attractive Damon and Affleck. They're two people, is what I'm saying. And, actually, I don't know where I was going with this. After a mostly irrelevant scene with Jack and love interest, we cut back to the hotel, where Gil is visited by young Gina Davis, an actress who spent the first half of her career relying on a sledgehammer subtle sexuality. In any case, she disappears before Gil even wakes up. Oh well, the movie's true sex bomb shows up in the very next scene anyway. What? The next morning, as Gil heads into town to try a talk with a disgraced doctor in a sanitarium, Mayer sneaks into his room and finds the encounter video. Soon after being blocked by both the security guard and the police chief, Jack and Gil sneak into the sanitarium even as Chief and Mayor arrive. Gil, posing as a patient, watches as the two most powerful men in the city start questioning the doctor, seeking assurances that a few of the doctor's experiments are actually dead. After they leave, Gil sees the doc call Hunchback to check in on the experiments. The civil servants also figure out something is up when they dig up what should be a corpse and instead find a mannequin. As Gil is tracking Hunchback, he is waylaid by a nympho vampire who ends up contributing nothing to the narrative. Well, okay, two things. I mean breasts. It's subtle humor, it's okay if you didn't get it. Hunchback, having shaken Gil, meets up with the doctor. Doc is warm and professional up until the moment he steps into his lab, at which point he goes manic, obsessive, and sinister. Even though they play it too outrageously in this, it's an amusing idea. The compulsive mad scientist. We add Mummy to the list of monsters in the castle and move on. After, we get this line.
Do you want to wait for lightning, Master? I don't work with lightning. I hate it. I work with all this other shit.
I don't know why I find that so funny. The next scene has Jack and love interest on a date, during which her daughter wanders off and finds Frankenstein. Anyway, the guys help search for the kid, and as Gil finds Frankie and the Gill Man, Jack finds the Wolfman. The latter spirits Gil away moments before Chief shows up to disbelieve Jack's story and arrest him for dubious reasons. We discover that Chief and Mayor are trying to keep everything quiet to avoid a return to their superstitious past. In other words, they refuse to close the beaches. Back at the lab, Gil has been strapped down. We discover that Wolfie is coherent, if immature, and that the Gill Man is just a human pretzel. He was just underwater for some reason, I assume the film will explain. He's got Vampire chained to a wall because otherwise no man in this town will be safe, though from her bloodlust or just her factory standard lust is unclear. Take that with the fact that the werewolf looks more like Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy, and things are starting to add up. Love interest breaks Jack out of jail, and he goes to talk with the gypsy. Here we get this exchange.
The answer lies in a secret passageway under the bridge of the castle.
Bridge?
Jump off and swim to the embankment.
There's no water under there.
Then don't jump off.
A lot of the jokes have fallen pretty flat, but credit where it's due, that was funny. Good delivery. Hunchback sneaks into a barn to sedate the monster, who is playing cards with Kid. It takes some doing, but he manages. Jack gets to the lab and confronts the doctor, ending his madness by pushing him 6 inches out of his lab, where he regains his composure. Like I said, it's a good bit. Anyway, the monster, who has an actual name that I never bothered to remember, wakes up and takes off with Kid. We follow the guys, the experiments, and the monster as they all make their way towards the town's wine festival. Well, it all hits the fan when the monster arrives in town with the unconscious Kid in his arms. Even after it's become apparent that she was just sleeping, the town starts mobbing him, producing torches at a moment's notice. Oh, they're good. Jack, Gil, and the doctor arrive just in time, and after love interest takes care of the police, they explain what's been going on. The monster was just a guy who got mangled in a car wreck, who the doctor was trying to fix despite the city officials funneling away the money meant for the surgeries. As the others show up, we find that the Wolfman has hypertrichosis, a real condition that causes excessive hair growth, and for which the doctor was giving him electrolysis. The Mummy is a woman who's undergone extensive plastic surgery. The Hunchbacks and their kid, well, they're just sort of naturally subservient, not actually humped, for all that matters. And the vampire is just an attention-seeking nymphomaniac weirdo. So the town celebrates with their newly restored brethren, and everyone lives happily ever... Wait a minute! What was with the pretzel guy? What was his place in all this? Why was he underwater? He doesn't even get his own twirly... Okay, I think my larynx just snapped loose. No more yelling. So, what did I think of the movie? Fairly funny, though it could have done with more subtlety and less physical humor overall. Jack and Gil's character were pretty natural, being consistent yet dynamic. There were some clever ideas, not all of them executed as well as they could have been. The final reveal at the end was too easy to figure out. Also, seriously, instead of pretzel guy, how about someone with a skin condition that makes him appear scaly, and the doctor's doing some kind of hydration therapy? See, instant Gillman, excuse to be in the water, not a random contortionist the director found rifling through the studio dumpsters. So yeah, not a good movie, but maybe it's worth a look. Anyway, this... Hey, sweet. Well, this has been Victor with The Junkyard. Thanks for watching and have a good day. You know, formally listing the female characters in order of my own personal preferences has been a very upsetting journey of self-discovery.